Alright guys, you may remember the other day that I was starting to think about taking some of these body bolts out, and I've been spraying them for a couple days with penetrating oil, and decided to go ahead and give it a shot. So I decided to start at the back here because I thought that they were going to be the easiest to come out. I had kind of access to them from underneath as well as above. And I really thought that they'd just come right out, but I started with this one and I broke it off immediately. So I totally destroyed that one, it didn't come out, and moved to the other side and broke it off. It basically the same exact place. So those two are broke, but what I did was I brought a jack back here. And the lighting's not good, so you're going to have a hard time seeing this. But I jacked up the truck bed just a touch so that I could just see if I was free and how things were working. And so I raised the truck bed maybe 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, and then this thing is pretty loose. So I don't know exactly, maybe I just punch this bolt down through and everything separates. But you know, both sides are basically the same. There's a backing plate or something on there. I don't really know how that goes together, but I may have to cut through the bolts. The good news is that they're right here, so if I've got to cut through anything, it should be pretty easy. And then, so the middle bolts, they came out both sides with no issue at all. They just came right out, just easy peasy. The ones up here where they were hidden under the floor pans, I thought they were going to be a nightmare. The passenger side one, it came right out, no significant issues. It spun for a minute underneath, but then came out, so that's exciting. The driver's side, what I found was, here, let me get a light. So here on the driver's side, I thought it was just totally corroded and stuff, but although it was corroded, what had happened was at some point, I don't know what this ring here is. I think it may be a spacer that was in the structure underneath, and then the floor pan went over top of it, and it was a spacer to keep that bolt from crushing the support. Well, I think that all rotted away, which is why there's a new pan here. But what had happened when they installed this or reinstalled it or did whatever they did, they welded this bolt head to that. So I thought it was all rust that had formed around and caked around, but it was actually pieces of weld that wrapped around that head and attached it to the support. So I took a chisel and I broke that weld up. Unfortunately, it came apart. I mean, it wasn't easy, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't too bad. I was able to separate the head from this piece here. And then after I did that, I was able to clean this up enough to get a socket on it and work it out. So I worked it out to about here, and now it's spinning underneath, and I can't keep it from spinning. So I'm going to end up cutting it anyways, but I mean, I was really worried about how this was. I thought this whole thing was just rusted together, and I'd have to not only cut the bolt, but have to drill a new hole. And I'm really pleased with how it's gone. So up front, we've still got these guys. I haven't broken them loose yet. I'm going to do that now. So hopefully these come out easily. But even if they don't, I feel like I've won the lottery with the 4 that are in the middle of the bed, because that is they're the hardest to get to cut. And if this one I can't get out, I can still get in there and cut that sucker out. And you know, I got good access to it. So let's get on this and see what happens here. Okay, so I thought these might work out okay, but they're not. So I'm not going to have you guys watch me struggle with this. I'll work on it a little and then we'll come back. All right, so I got this one broken loose. And it's coming out. Haha! It's out. Ha ha ha! Sweet. So front two are out now. The ones behind the seats are out. Passenger side floorboard is out. Driver's side needs to be cut. The rear two broke off and need to be cut. So let's go start cutting. I'd like to take one of these pucks out just so I can see how it's made up, so I know that I cut it. When I go to cut them, that I'm cutting in the most effective spot. So let's do that. All right, so what I'm doing here is I've got some blocks and another block up in here, and I'm trying to lift the body up just enough that I can get access to this puck. So I don't have these blocks on the front grille. I have them on the core support, and then there's a battery tray, bracket, and the fender. So I kind of got it from 3 areas here. And I'm not trying to lift it up much, just enough that I can get to this puck. And this may not be a useful thing to do because I don't know how those pucks go together. There's no bolt in there, so theoretically, my thought is that, and maybe naively, that I can pull that out. So I was thinking that it was a success that the bolts came out. But kind of looks like I might have to cut them all out. I don't. All right, got a whole bunch of blades here because I will bend and break these, I'm sure. That's what I do. Now I really thought it was going to be easy. If those bolts came out, I thought the pucks would just fall out. I thought it'd be easy, I said. I'm going to try to drill this thing out. This thing is just too freaking loud. This thing's just too loud. So I'm using hearing protection and eye protection. So do all that stuff so you don't hurt yourself. All right. What's happening here is I can fight cutting this rubber on the top or the bottom and trying to slice through these bushing sleeves. Or what I'm going to try to do is I've drilled a 1/2 inch hole already. I've got a 3/4 inch drill bit, and I'm going to try to drill through this washer. This washer is not a washer. It's part of the bushing sleeve, I think. I don't know until I get it apart. But I'm going to try to drill this free so that this part drops out and all that's left is a bushing sleeve. Because then I should be able to take this rubber off easily and then pull the whole thing up from the top. So we'll see how difficult this is. So I made the mistake of trying to slip this thing earlier, and it's causing my drill bit to bounce around. Probably gonna destroy my... Ha! Look at that. Look at that. So it worked. Ha ha ha. Sweet. Boom. Nice. Done. So that's pretty simple. I like that. So on this one, the bolt only went that far. So I'm going to try to drill the end of the bolt at the same time. I don't know what's going to happen here. Good. On to the next. So, how did these guys, how are we gonna get to those? Man, I don't even know how to, that's crazy. What do you do? I have to think about that. All right guys, I'm in the middle of taking these body mounts off to put in a 1-inch body lift. And I just wanted to briefly talk about how these are made up, because I've seen a number of people do this, and I approached it the way that I saw other people do it, but I don't think necessarily that's the right way. So this is an example of a mount that the bolt came out of. So this portion would sit in the hanger, and the body sits on top of it here and then gets washered and bolted through, and this part sits underneath the hanger, so the hanger slides in between here, and then this part is part of this. So what I think we have originally is two separate sleeves here. You got a top sleeve. This thing rolls down and is the outside part here. And then this piece, which used to be connected to there, rolls up as the inside piece. And these two get basically rusted together. So I see a lot of people, which you can see I started to do the same thing, was take a Sawzall and try to cut through these two collars at the same time, but this rubber really gets in the way. You're on top. If you tried it on top, this is the top part against between the rubber and the frame mount. The weight of the frame is pressing down on your blade while you cut. It's just, you could raise it up, but that tightens this whole thing. The frame comes with it when you do that. So this is pinched tightly. The frame mount is pinched tightly in there. So cutting through there is an option, but you got to get rid of a bunch of this to be able to cut through these two sleeves. And I don't know if you could see it. So if you cut through up here, you've got a lot of meat to cut through. And although that's possible to do, I think it's more difficult. So what I did was, this bottom part that would be connected to here, I just drilled out enough through this bottom washer part of this assembly to where I could break this off. And then once I broke that off, this part just literally pops out of the body bracket. So maybe I just haven't seen anybody do that, and I think that it's a helpful thing. So that's what I found that worked on the front two, and the two in the floorboards and the passenger and driver side floorboards. Now, the ones in the back, the ones at the tailgate and the ones behind the driver and passenger seat are different. You can't access them from underneath to drill this, because the two behind the driver's seat, well, all of them are mounted on top of the frame. So you've got a boxed frame under this, and you can't drill through the frame to get to this. So I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to handle that yet. Getting a Sawzall in here to cut this part is going to be difficult too, because they're right up against, well, they're just not really all that accessible. The ones in the back are at the tailgate are somewhat accessible, but you're still going to fight the rubber the whole time. So fortunately, the ones I don't know if it's fortunate or not. The ones on mine on the tailgate, I broke the bolt off right here and it's sticking out down here. So the whole thing is still together with, you know, I'm going to have to, if I do cut through it, I've got to cut through both the inner collar, the outer collar, the inner collar, the outer collar, and the bolt that's in there. That's fine, but it's going to be tough going because you've got to get through this rubber first, and I don't know how easy it is to cut. Well, I know how easy it is to cut this rubber out. It's just not that easy. It's just a hard place to get to. So there's the collar. You can see that I got into it some. So I don't know. We'll see how the back ones go. It's going to take some time. I don't know. Hopefully that helps. I'll update you on the rear ones. I don't know how to get the rear ones out yet, at least easily. So it'll probably be brute force. So we'll see. All right, that's all.